It's my pleasure to get to the main event, one of our main events, to introduce our dynamic and accomplished keynote speaker, Gil Penalosa. Gil's going to be speaking about the built environment and public health, designing communities for health and equity. And Gil is basing his talk not only on his vast planning, design, and policy-making experience, but also on his touring during the last 2 days of many neighborhoods and landscapes that make Rhode Island such a gem. Gil is very passionate about ensuring that cities work for all people. And because of his unique blend of experience, of pragmatism, and passion, many cities worldwide seek his leadership and valuable advice. In fact, he's worked in over 350 cities. He's the founder and chair of the successful international Canadian-based nonprofit 880 Cities and founder of Cities for Everyone. He's done a lot of different interesting things in his life, and one of them I can particularly relate to is he's run for public office. He ran for mayor of Toronto and got 100,000 votes, which is pretty damn significant. He's got a lot of academic credentials. I won't review all of those, but he was selected by Identity Review as one of 15 thought leaders in sustainable city development and voted number 13 among Planetizen's top 100 most influential contemporary urbanists. And following Gil's keynote, he's going to join a local leader panel that we'll be reacting to and discussing how the models and strategies for healthier communities that he's sharing with us today can be embraced and implemented across Rhode Island. So, Gil, welcome back to Providence. We are very excited to greet you again and to hear your latest fresh thinking on what we need to do.
It's more than designing cities. What we are really doing is designing and building a way of life, a way of life. So we need to decide how do we want to live. For example, if we want children to walk to school, we need to do small schools so that the catchment area is small. But if we do gigantic schools and merge schools, it's not going to be a walk to, but it's going to be a drive to schools. We need to decide how do we want to live. Now that we got climate change, all of these challenges. And just a few years ago when COVID arrived, people said, all change. I think our perception changed. It was as if we had gotten some magnifying glasses to look at the cities. And on the positive side, we have been told that the quality of air was bad. But we didn't know how bad it was, because we had been breathing the same air for a long time. And then they said, hey, stay home for a few days. And city after city around the world, in just 2, 3, 4 days, they were totally transformed. So it was like if we had gotten if God had sent a magic wand and said, you want clean air? Now you know how to do it. That's why today, for the whole day, keep thinking about how do we want to live? Do we want to go to Milan and look at this? Or do we want a different Milan? And also Providence and everywhere around the world. We know what is possible. We told people, go to the parks, but be physically distanced. Well, the reality is that some people didn't have parks within walking distance, but we realized the streets were public spaces. And we saw Auckland, New Zealand, and we saw Auckland, California. Auckland, California, in 24 hours, the mayor said, as of tomorrow, all the neighborhood streets are going to be slow. But it's slow, only 10 miles an hour, and only for the people that live in that street. So if you're on a big road and you are on a traffic jam, you wait. You don't cut through the neighborhoods. Imagine you could do this tomorrow in neighborhoods all over Rhode Island. She did it in 24 hours. You could do it too. This is part of smart growth. When we have fewer cars and we said maybe people got to move in on bicycles, it used to take 10 or 15 years to do protected bike lanes or more. And now we saw all around the world, London and Paris and cities everywhere. They did it not in 15 years, but in 10 or 15 days. So it was amazing how they were popping up everywhere. It didn't take decades, but it took days, so it showed us that it wasn't really a technical or financial issue. We needed bus-only lanes, and again, it was in just a few days, we had bus-only lanes. Some cities didn't have enough park space, and they have golf courses where only maximum 240 people play. in one day. And the mayor of San Francisco said, well, as of tomorrow, this golf course is going to be a public park. And now instead of 240, there were thousands and thousands of people enjoying the public park. So if a city doesn't have enough large parks or has a housing issue, maybe we should rethink whether we should have golf courses for 240 people. In many cases, the impossible became possible, and we were so happy because we said, maybe things are going to change post-COVID. We have an opportunity, but also a responsibility on how do we want to live. I've been fortunate that I have worked in over 350 cities all over the world, small cities and big ones, rich and poor. And everywhere I go, people say, Gil, what's 880 cities? Well, 880 cities is not really about walking or cycling or parks or streets. Those are the means, not the end. And I like to see the venue where I'm going to be speaking. I was here yesterday. But when I was in Poland, in Warsaw, then I said I went to see the place. And I was going to speak outdoors. And I saw all of these people dancing. I said, oh, how am I going to compete? The next day, and then I saw DJ Vika. You know, the people that create the most businesses in the US are the people 60 to 70. The second group is 50 to 60. It's people like Vika. She owns the equipment and goes from city to city, from park to park. Okay, but let's get back on 880 cities. It's about creating healthier cities where people are going to live happier. And people always ask me, Gil, can my children walk to school? Can my grandparents ride their bike to get eggs or milk? I said, well, look, it's the 80 rule of common sense. But yes, common sense seems to be the least common of the senses. Step number one, think of a child that you love, someone around age, your son, your daughter, your grandchild, a neighbor, anybody around age. Once you have the child, step number two, think of an 80-year-old that also you love. Your parents, your grandparents, your brothers, your sisters, a former teacher, anyone around 80. And when you have the child and the older adult, then go to step number three. Would you send them across that intersection? Would you send them walking to the park or to take public transit? Would they feel safe? If they would, it's fine. If they would not, we gotta change. Think about what if everything that you did in the cities in Rhode Island, everything, the sidewalk, the crosswalk, the park, the library, the convention center, the restaurants, everything had to be great for an 8 and an 80. Not 82, 88, and 80 as an indicator. Because if it's good for the 8 and it's good for the 80, it's going to be good for everybody from 0 to over 100. We need to stop building cities as if everybody was 30-year-old and athletic. And build cities for everyone. That is the concept of 880 cities for everyone. It's about being healthier. It's about being happier. Now I live in Toronto, but before I was in Bogota. And in Bogota I was commissioner. Bogota is the capital of Colombia, in the northern tip of South America. And I'm going to tell you only a couple of things. One about parks and also about open streets. In parks, I led the construction of over 200 parks. All over the city, small, big, medium. This was one of them, a large park where the Pope came and gave a mass for 1 million people, and then the Pope left, and nothing happened. Nothing happened in 27 years. Why? Because change is hard in Bogota, and in Rhode Island, and in Hong Kong, and in Copenhagen. Everywhere change is hard, because you try to change, and the cave people show up. You know them because they are everywhere. They are the citizens against virtually everything. But don't take no for an answer. You gotta find solutions to the problem, not problems to the solutions. So it was like this for 27 years, and in 4 years we turned it into the nicest park for active, for passive, for contemplative recreation. Because parks are really about people. And it's not only about soccer fields, but it's also just to sit and watch people go by and have the trees and do a little bit of meditation and enjoy, be with a friend or be with thousands. Parks are about people, especially when they are in urban areas. And it's an amazing park. But also, of course, it's not only just big parks. We did hundreds, especially in low-income areas, very, very poor areas. Why also is so critical? People say, oh, in the low-income areas, they have so many needs. Yeah, but also they need to recreate. They live in smaller places. They have less options. So in the low-income areas, we need to have better everything that is public. Better sidewalks, better bike lanes, better parks, better libraries, better everything that is public. And then also, I found a small program of a few miles and a few thousand people. Like in North America, we call it Open Street. And we turn it into the world's largest pop-up park. Simple. You open streets to people, you close them to cars, and the magic happens. I was obsessed with connecting the wealthiest and the poorest and the slums and everybody in the city, integrated as one. Some people walk, others bike, or run, or chat, or shop, or socialize. This is about 100% urban health. We hear so many good things about public health. Because the benefits, oh my God, are endless. Mental and physical health, but also good for economic development, environment, happiness. These are some images of. I mean, I've seen it work in cities of 20,000 people, or cities of 1 million, cities of 10 million. It works everywhere. Also, we did over 175 miles of protected bike lanes, creating connectivity. In some places so poor that it's almost impossible for you to imagine in Rhode Island the level of poverty. And why do we need to do really, really good quality sidewalks and bike lanes? Part of it is because it's going to be safer, but just as important is because we need to dignify the people that walk. We need to dignify the people that ride bicycles with trees and lights and things. Look at this, for example. This is low-income area, very wide sidewalk, very wide bike lane. Most of those trees were planted over 20 years ago. Now they're growing up really nice. But, I mean, why did I even mention Bogota? Because Bogota, of course, is decades behind Providence. But it has only a fraction of the per capita income. So it's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's not a technical issue. It's about focusing on people and cities. So I'm really thankful to have been invited to share ideas, because I'm going to talk about, related to Growth Smart, how to create equitable and sustainable and playful cities where everyone can live healthier and happier. So I'm going to take you through 8 actions. The first one is that I think we need to have a shared vision on how do we want to live. Many times we don't have a shared vision, and then we waste a lot of money because we are doing things all over the place. But with a vision, it becomes, we create a Frankenstein. I mean, let's think about it. Maybe an indicator is that good cities where a child on a tricycle or a person on a wheelchair can safely and joyfully go anywhere. Think of the neighborhoods on Rhode Island. Can this have, this is really low-hanging bar. Can we do it in your neighborhood? Can we do it everywhere? I mean, it used to happen. I mean, it can happen again. I mean, this might be joyfully, but not really safely. I mean, without a vision, we create chaos. So we really need, I think, Smart Rhode Island helps developing that and creating the shared vision. I mean, shared vision is like the image on a puzzle. So then it doesn't matter which piece of the puzzle you are doing, as long as it's pieces of the same puzzle. But it's not just about the vision. We need action, action, action. We need doing. We've been talking too much. Maybe 20 years ago, we were not talking much about it. Now everybody's talking about it, but we're not doing. So we got to create that shared vision, and we got to have action. We need to do it, so in order to transform the cities. I mean, when we have a shared vision, then we can even change. Instead of saying ready, aim, fire, because many cities are ready, aim, 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 aim. They never fire. But if we have a vision, then we should skip one step and just say, ready, fire, aim. We gotta do, we gotta act. We got people in government, we need to get them doing. And this is also about urban health. Why urban health? Because in the cities, the healthiest people live in cities. And also the unhealthiest people live in cities. And when I'm talking about urban health, I'm talking about the effect of the urban environment on people. And I based it on 3 pillars. One of the pillars is social, one is natural, and one is the environment. For example, and how they interrelate. For example, we talk about tree equity, the tree canopy. Yeah, Toronto has 28%, but that's natural. But where the upper income live, over 50% tree equity. Where the low income people live, less than 10%. So that's the part of social and the built environment. So we do have an opportunity and a responsibility. Something is interesting because the population in all developed countries is decreasing. We've been living in that is growing. No, now it's decreasing. In most places. And around the world, the population is going to level off in about 40 years. Still increasing somewhat in Africa, in India, and some parts of Latin America. And we see the maps. All of them is very clear. You need 2.1 children per woman to stabilize. Well, US is at 1.6, Canada at 1.7. And almost all of them. We are having more and more people dying than people being born. And this is the population, but even China is going to lose by like 500 million people in the next 80 years. So it's among whatever we're doing is going to be there for a long time. It doesn't matter, and everything I'm saying is as applicable for a city of 20,000 people or 1 million or 5 million because the issues are very similar. Maybe the solutions might be a little bit different. Another revolution that is happening is that small cities got a new lease on life. And that's really applicable because Rhode Island has a lot of smaller ones. They were disappearing. All of a sudden, when you can work from home 3, 4, 5 days a week, then they can. But small communities, small cities are not good because they are small. Most of the small cities are really bad. They also need to have trees and be walkable and have things within walking distance and have parks and all of this. But also they have an opportunity to thrive because many more people can live. So this is something really interesting because where people live is really what we're doing in the cities for the next 200 years. How we build cities today is the most important decision of our time. Because once the population stabilizes, I mean, in the US, you're going to be building around 50 million homes in the next 40 years. What a magnificent opportunity to densify in the right places to fix a lot of failed urbanism from the last 50 years. But then we got to focus on people. That's the second message. I mean, it seems obvious, but it's not, because this is, in the last 100 years, this is how we've been building cities. You know, if we look at cities in the US by zip code, even something as basic as life expectancy, the zip codes with dark red is 60, in light pink is 90. How can we even accept as normal that if you are born in one neighborhood, you are going to live 50% more than if you were born 10 minutes away? And when people are living 60, they are really horrible places. You cannot even eat healthy because there are food deserts, they are dangerous, lots of gangs, the public places are totally run out. We've been focusing on car, and not on people's happiness. This is how we've been trying to solve mobility, putting in billions, and we haven't even solved mobility. This is at the same scale, Florence, Italy, and one highway intersection in the US. It seems like we had learned how to do cities, and then we unlearned. Maybe when this car arrived, maybe we should have stopped and said, hey, maybe we need to do the grids for people walking and cycling, and other grids for people on cars. Maybe that's what we're going to do also now with technology, to say, how can we get technology for people and not people for technology? I mean, because we're going to do things right, but also we need to do the right things. For example, the cities all over the US, now everybody talks about walkable cities. All of them were walkable cities, until we destroyed the cities all over the place. One after the other I mean, think how people used to go to school or go get bread or go to the park in the community on the left, and what happens on the right. And it's not that simple as tearing down highways, because all of that had millions of little connections that took decades and decades. I mean, the cities don't decide the what. The population is at the national level, but the cities do decide the how. The cities and the state. And this is how we've been doing cities. Imagine social housing. I mean, where is the dignity? Instead of parks, we're doing parking lots. 21 parking lots per person in Houston, 11 across the U.S. Imagine people with disabilities. The reality is the last 40 years have not been very good. I mean, maybe the last 80 years. And when I say not very good, it's because when we think about our communities, from physical and mental health, quality of air, quality of water, economic development, we have learned how to survive. But we need to learn how to live. And that's what Rhode Island Smart Growth is about. We need to improve the cities that we have today. We also need to manage cities radically different. For example, let's do cities for children. And this is a nice indicator because if cities are good for children, they're going to be good for everyone. I mean, we've been learning how to do nice children's parks. That's in Hong Kong, that's in Toronto. I mean, everywhere we have learned. But now we need to learn how to provide good places for the children to walk to the park. And being active, the CDC has told us how important it is, physical activity. Imagine in Rhode Island if you decided every community to be playful. You go out on the sidewalk and there is a swing, you are waiting for the bus and there's a small parquet. It's more of an attitude. This is not really about money. It's saying, okay, let's go put some paint on the crosswalks and we're going to change. And some people might say, oh, that's so nice because look at how happy those kids are. You see it in their faces. You might say, oh, it's nice, fun and games. Yeah, it's fun and games, but it's also how children learn. Playing is how children learn. That's how they develop their muscle strength, their sociability, their sense of belonging, their cognitive thinking. We're also going to do cities for elders. And we might, I mean, just if cities are good for children, let's take away the word children, put elders, and they are good for everyone. That's like magic. But it is true, cities for children and for elders. That doesn't happen for people 20 to 60. I mean, if a city is good for a 30-year-old, that might not be good for the 8 or for the 80. It's not about doing a Disney World for the 20 to 50 wealthy and healthy. It's about creating cities for everyone, which is very difficult. By the way, we have doubled the life expectancy in Rhode Island in the last 130 years. Imagine, that's been amazing. In hundreds of thousands of years, we reached 31, 32 years. In the last 130, we went to 80. And most of it is healthy years. I don't know why we have such a negative perception. Yeah, our body ages, but not our mind. Like Bernard Shaw used to say, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. I mean, we can even replace the word playing with walking. We don't stop walking because we grow old. We grow old is because we stop walking, so we gotta walk, walk, walk. I mean, if view aging as a decline, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We need to fight ageism. I mean, ageism is dumb. Don't do this because you are a child. Don't talk politics because you are too young. You cannot work because you are too old. I mean, aging is not a problem to solve or a disease to cure. Aging is living. We start aging since the day we are born, and we're living much, much, much longer. It's so great. Now it's 1/3 of our lives. 1/3. I mean, this is so changed that imagine the people that have ever lived to 60 in the history of humanity, half are alive today. Half. This is incredible. And people are gardening and having ice cream on the streets and playing with their grandchildren on the parks. And by the way, Rhode Island, the population over 60 is going to double. And the population over 80 is going to quadruple. So what is the role of Smart Growth Rhode Island? Because there is a huge need, but also a huge opportunity. Let's keep in mind, elders are givers, not takers. Elders are assets to the community, not liabilities. We need to change the conversation. I mean, we have added many, many years to our lives. But we have failed to add life to those years. And we can do it. We're talking about it, but we need to live older, healthier, happier. I mean, the good news is that we don't really have to do this. But we are like the frog. We're talk about older people, but we are not doing enough. We got to live healthier and happier. And of course, not only, I mean, everyone, not just the older. So the third message is we got to have playful and healthy cities. Why is it so critical? Because now, if you're good at anything, if you're a good teacher or a nurse or an engineer or a doctor or a community organizer, if you're good at anything, you can live anywhere. Not anywhere in New England, anywhere in the world. So that is the key element. A good city is a competitive advantage that cannot be copied. A bad city is very hard to fix. So we got to work on this. I mean, competition among cities and countries is going to be about people, about good people. How to retain people, how to attract people, how to get good nurses in Rhode Island, how to get good teachers for the schools, good students to the universities. The decision makers got to think every day, why would people want to live in the cities in Rhode Island? I mean, cities used to be places to work. More and more and more, they're becoming places to live and to play. That's why we need them to be very playful, very fun. Everything that is free should be amazing. The sidewalks, the parks, the libraries, the schools. Cities are competing, and you are not just competing with Boston or New York, you are competing with the world, with Copenhagen and Melbourne and other cities. Maybe we gotta have things like open streets. I mean, we gotta focus on the well-being of everybody, especially the most vulnerable, everyone that is poor, everyone that has disabilities, people of visible minorities. I mean, the well-being is critical. What is well-being? Well, it's being well. And maybe we heard a wonderful presentation about public health. These 5 elements. We gotta eat healthier, more plant-based. We gotta have farmers markets all over the place. Number 2, we gotta sleep 7 to 9 hours. Everybody, at any age. If we don't sleep well, everything deteriorates. Also, the drowsy driving kills more people than drugs and alcohol combined. And sleep is democratic, powerful, free. We gotta socialize. Socialize is so important everywhere. If we socialize, it's gonna improve our brain health, our mental and emotional, our confidence, our quality of life. It's gonna decrease blood pressure and risk of Alzheimer's. So it's not about learning how to knit here, it's about having knitting groups in the parks. And if we are in green spaces, then that's the 4th message. We gotta have contact with nature. Everywhere, we need nature at home, on the sidewalks, on the streets, on places of work, everywhere. And next, we gotta be physically active. Since the day we were born, our last day, physical activity. And physical activity is amazing because it reduces premature death, strokes, cancer, osteoporosis, diabetes. I mean, it's not about doing marathons. It's only 30 minutes a day, but it has to be 5 or more days a week. So there's an urgency to be active. By the way, this is not walking the dog. Everybody is looking for a magic pill. Now there is a pill for the weight, but that doesn't have the benefits of physical activity. I mean, there is no magic pill. The only way that the cities in Rhode Island, the only way are going to be physically active is if people walk or bike as a normal part of everyday life. There is no other way. You might play golf once or twice a week. You might play soccer once or twice a week. But if it's 5 or more days a week, it's only walking and cycling as a normal part of everyday life. That's what has to be a priority. And I have not seen a city in Rhode Island that is safe to bike, and many not very safe to walk. That has to be a top priority for all ages. So that is the 4th message. We gotta walk, walk, walk. I mean, everybody walks. Every single trip begins and ends walking. We walk to the car, we walk to places. I mean, walking and cycling is not a joke. This could be a wonderful street anywhere in Rhode Island. Walking and cycling is not a frivolity. This little girl is telling us. Walking and cycling is really the only individual mode of mobility for most people. Even in the wealthiest neighborhood of Rhode Island, 30% of the people don't drive. Everyone under 16, many over 70, and many other people that don't want. Every child and youth should be like a human right to have safe walking and cycling. Unless you think that only the people that have the age and the money and the desire to have a car have a right to individual mobility. That's why we're also talking about democracy and human rights and equality and sustainability. In the US, more than half of the trips are less than 3 miles. If we had safe facilities, many of those could be walkable or bikeable. Also walking, that's how we were created. You know, the birds, they fly. And the fish, they swim. But people, we walk. We walk. And we walk in the middle of the winter. And maybe when we walk, we use all our senses, so we're so happy we're walking and we see the children playing and the youth going to school. We hear the birds singing. We go from a coffee shop and we smell the aroma. Parents and children walk. Older people walk. Everybody walks. We walk in the summer. We walk in the winter. But we need to make it safe. And it is not safe. Cities promised to be vision zero. But if you don't put the money and the actions, then it's not a vision zero, but it's a zero vision city. Sometimes we get places like this committee. What if we don't change at all and something magical happens? No, nothing magical is going to happen. We need to make it safe. For example, all of the streets in Rhode Island should be 20 miles an hour, all of them, except the arterials. The big roads can be 30, 40, but all of the neighborhoods, when you're on an arterial, you go into a neighborhood, 20. Why? Because it's not 20, it's plain, it sounds nice. It's because if you get hit by a driver at 20, only 5% probability of being killed. At 40 is more than 80%. This is really an issue of life or death. And also, we gotta have taxes on big cars and make it harder and harder and harder to have big cars in the cities. They gotta pay more for parking, they gotta pay more for taxes, we gotta make it really, really hard because it makes a huge difference. That's why all the top 20 developed countries, quote unquote, the killings are going down. The US is going up in the last 10 years because of the size of the cars. I mean, citywide has to be 20 miles an hour in all the neighborhood streets, and we need to enforce it. I mean, Oslo did it. You say, oh, but I'm not in Oslo. Well, Hoboken in New Jersey did it. Hoboken is right on the other side of Manhattan, across the river. And 0 deaths in the last 4 years. 0. In cars, in walking, in public transit, in cycling, 0. Take a look, go there, have a look how they have road diets, they lower the speed, they created shorter crossings. It's doable. I mean, if Hoboken did it, why you cannot do it in any of the communities in Rhode Island? I mean, we're going to have people first. And it's not first when we put a post in the middle of the sidewalk. I was in a state in the US and the mayor took me to see some streets. He said, we're putting lights on the sidewalk. I said, oh, how nice. But how not so nice that you are putting the post in the middle of the sidewalks. And then he took me to look new neighborhood sidewalks. They look like a roller coaster. Imagine with a stroller or with a, no, the sidewalk has to be perfectly flat. Maybe 20% is the ramp, but 80% has to be flat. Sometimes we don't even do sidewalks. Sidewalks is the most important infrastructure in any city. I mean, when we're on the street, on a bike, on a car, on transit, we're going from point A to point B. Not on sidewalks. We say, I'm going to go for coffee. Maybe it takes 15 minutes, an hour. Sidewalks is where people meet boyfriends and girlfriends. We meet our neighbors. We meet people that sell fruits and coffee. We go to any new city, we leave the bags, and we go out on the sidewalks, and we develop a sense of belonging on the sidewalks. Sidewalks are really amazing in the wintertime and in the summer, and all the time. The sidewalks, in so many ways, are the most important. They really remind us that walking is much more than walking, and then you've got 3 different generations enjoying the sidewalks. I love to work in Buenos Aires because people dance tango on the sidewalks. And of course, we got to do sustainable mobility. Not only walking, it's riding bicycles, it's using public transit, it's new uses of cars. You know, this could be Providence or any community, or Newport, or any community in Rhode Island. Why not? I mean, if we're going to improve walkability, a simple test. If it's not safe for an 8 and an 80, it's nothing. It's nothing. Don't even call it a bike lane. I mean, sometimes people used to say, oh, it's good enough. It's better than nothing. No, it's not better than nothing. I was working in Florida a few weeks ago, 55 miles an hour, and they got these bike lanes right in the middle of the road. The people say, oh, let's not do more infrastructure because people are not biking. We don't have a bicycle culture. No, it's not the culture, it's that no one. I mean, we know how to do it safe. Let's do it safe. All the experts can go in between trucks. The children are not going to go in between trucks. Let's make it safe, and then we're going to say children of all ages and all abilities riding their bikes. And if they ride their bikes, then they grow up and they will continue riding bikes. As adults, we need to change our mentality. I mean, if we want to have more people riding bicycles, it's simple. There's only 2 actions. One is to lower the speed in the neighborhoods, and 2, to create a network of protected byways. It's the only 2 things. Nothing else. It's not about bike racks on the buses. It's not about maps. It's not about, no. All of that makes it nicer for the 1% that is already cycling. But that doesn't get new cyclists. So everything I said about 20 miles for walking is the same for cycling. But we need to create networks, connectivity. AAA is all ages and abilities. It's not for the 20 to 15 spandex. It's for everybody. But connectivity, if it doesn't click, I mean, we need to stop talking about bike lanes and start talking about networks. Because sometimes you do 2 miles that doesn't connect anything with anything and say, people are not using it. Well, you would not be using cars if they had no connectivity. And we got to think of daytime and nighttime and people opening the doors. And if you don't have the money to make it permanent like this one or this other one, don't just put paint. Enhance the paint with a bollard every 6 feet, and then you're going to make it safe. I mean, also, new technology, for example, in Poland, they have these pigmented pebbles that they absorb the sun, and then at night, for 10 hours, you have light. We need networks. That's why people bike in Amsterdam. That's why people bike in Copenhagen, because there are networks. Slow neighborhood streets and networks to get from anywhere to anywhere. The connectivity for all ages and all abilities. It's, people talk about sustainable mobility, bicycles and public transit. It's the chicken or the egg. No, in bicycles and in public transit is very clear. No issue, chicken or the egg. We gotta have connectivity or people are not gonna use it. In public transit. I mean, public transit, if the city, a civilized city is not where the poor have cars. It's where the rich use public transit. We need to improve the public transit in Rhode Island because very, very, very few people are using it. Part of it might be marketing. You gotta have the name, the colors. I was with the mayor of Malmö in Sweden, and he said the citizens didn't like the buses, so they put a nose on the bus, they covered the wheels, and now they look like trains. And they call them superbus. I mean, all of the data shows. It's not about data. If we talk about the CO2 or the physical space, walking, cycling, and transit is way better than any mode of mobility. If we talk about the capacity per corridor, yeah, the BRTs and LRTs, I mean, we know the number, the capital cost, but we need to put money. If we have public transit, but it doesn't have speed, frequency, connectivity, and affordability, it will not click. If the bus is going by every hour, it doesn't work. If the bus is not close by, so we need to invest. So the chicken or the egg is very, very clear. People say, let's not invest in public transit because only 4% of the people are using it. And then people say, oh, I'm not going to use it because it's not reliable. No, so the chicken or the egg is very, you need to invest in public transit and people will use it. But it has to be fast, it has to be frequent, it has to have connected, and it has to be affordable. Very, very, very clear. If you don't invest on it, people are not going to use it. By the way, rapid transit is fast. It's not if the wheels are metal or rubber. It's if it has dedicated lanes, if it has easy to go in and out. I mean, sometimes people say, oh, I don't have the space for public transit. Well, do the mobility math. Do you want one of these or 140 of those? One of these or 145 is when my brother was mayor, and by the way, the U of Penn just last week came out with this new book, Equality and the City. And it reminded me of the space because when he was doing the BRTs in Bogota, this was the old system, and he started doing the new BRT system. By the way, the main line, he did it in 36 months. This line moves more people than any subway line in the US, except one of the lines in New York. And when they used to tell him, hey, there is no space for buses and cars. So he said, okay, if there's no space for buses and cars, then we don't have cars. And he created beautiful public places in some of these areas. It's, you know, in Latin America, where is the biggest gap between the haves and the have-nots, it was amazing to see for the first time people in public transit getting to places fast. It was like visible democracy. You know, people are, the Constitution says all people are equal. Well, then 120 people on a bus should have the right of space of 120 cars with one person. I mean, it's very clear. Walking, cycling, and transit takes up a lot less space, but also using cars. Now we have hydrogen cars and electric cars, and the cars, as Carl said, they're not going to disappear. We have driverless cars, and we see all of these drawings of how wonderful it's going to work. Well, when we're in a traffic jam, it's not the driver that is causing the traffic jams. It's the car. We need to have fewer cars, fewer cars. Also, I mean, the cost to have a car, according to the American Automobile Association, is about 20% of the income of a person in the US. If it's low income, it's like 30%. It's very, very expensive to have cars. I have nothing against cars, but it's just too expensive. Also, takes a lot of space, it makes a lot of noise, and a lot of pollution. Look at these drive-thrus. Really, the issue is, the cost of walk and bike and take public transit is only 4%. So when we're talking about affordability to live in Rhode Island, imagine, it's like winning the lottery if you come downsize from 3 to 2 or from 2 to 1 cars or 1 to 0. Instead of 20%, you're going to do 4%. What are you going to do with the other 16%? You're going to spend it in the local economy, in the restaurants, in improving your house, and in gardening, and in taking lessons. Amazing. And that's 60%, 16 that you're going to have this year and next and next and next and next, forever. And this is from cash flow. From the capital, we do houses. We have a housing crisis, but 20 or 30% of our houses are for the cars. I mean, look at this street with lots of cars on both sides, like most neighborhood streets. You take out the cars, and it's totally changed. And if you put a few trees and games, I mean, this is doable anywhere in Rhode Island. This is smart growth. So let's go to the neighborhood. The sixth is let's create neighborhood cities. I mean, neighborhood cities is about proximity. People talk about 15-minute cities, but at the end of the day, it's about proximity. It's about having all the basic needs within walking distance. It's not about having these gigantic stadiums inside the cities. I mean, we see the climate change. This is Chicago, where there is density. The downtown doesn't have as much impact. When you go sprawl, it's terrible. And cities are doing interesting things. This is Atlanta doing their green belt, different ways to use the front lawn. And also how to incentivize. In Paris, if you have solar panels, you don't pay taxes on the parking. If you don't have solar panels, you got to pay very, very high. In other places like Santa Barbara, look at the parking lots. They change the surface, so you get the 100-year rain, and the water goes right through it. Also, we're going to have to maybe use the drones and this, but we need density. Density. I mean, in dense cities, eventually everything is going to work. Public health and mobility and education. In sprawl cities, nothing is going to work. And when we talk about density, people think of the 50-story buildings. No, these are 10 ways to have the same density. We get the same density with 5-story buildings next to each other than with 50-story buildings every other block. This is all we need in the arterials in Rhode Island. 5, 6, 7 stories, that's all. We don't need 50-story buildings. And they can look really, really beautiful. Also, when you have sprawl, the cost to the city, $3,400 per home. The cost to in urban areas, $1,400. Cities in the US are going broke all over the place. Because when people did a new neighborhood, they charge only to build the road and the sewage and the water. But they didn't say, oh, also you got to create a fund to maintain it for the next 200 years. So now when they start going bad, they don't have the money. I mean, the land use and mobility is two sides of the same coin. Let me tell you a couple of things about Melbourne. Melbourne, 30 years ago, would not have been in the top 300 cities. Now, it's one of the top 5 cities in all rankings of quality of life. What have they done? Putting art all over the city. You can do this in any community in Rhode Island. 50,000 people, 100,000. Trees. Look at those trees in Melbourne. Without any trees, you put trees, and it's magnificent. They have been able to lower the temperature by 4 degrees citywide and by 10 degrees in some neighborhoods. Look at the streets. Without trees and with trees, it's amazing. And this is dual end. No one wanted to live in Melbourne. Now everybody wants to live in Melbourne. They were sprawling. They were going all over the place. They said, no, no, no. This is the suburbs of Melbourne. Why is it that people don't walk? Because there is nothing to walk to. You don't have the density to have ice cream places or coffee places or bookstores or Tai Chi or yoga or pottery or anything. So they're saying, okay, let's put light rail or let's put buses on this. And wherever you're going to put the buses, let's densify. Only to 6 floors, nothing more. This is how it is now, and this is how it is going to look. 6 floors. Now the people that live here, now they can walk too because they're going to have public transit within walking distance. They are going to have also ice cream places and coffee places and Tai Chi and yoga and all of this. So this is the kind of thing that I'm suggesting for any community in Rhode Island to go to this. It's completely doable. So let's do it. Let's keep in mind that we can get the same density. I mean, and the most important thing in any building of any size is how it reaches the ground. Is it more pleasant to be there, to play there? I mean, I'm a Swiftie. Because she knows about density. She also loves bicycles. She has her bicycles all over the place. And let her tell you about why density is good.
In other towns or cities or whatever, things feel very spread out. But because of something about the New York, everything being on top of each other, like the night falls together. Like in LA, I love LA, but you have to plan out exactly what you're gonna do. You have to park your car, you have to tell your friends where to meet you, then you have to figure out where you're gonna go next, then you have to get organized. It seems like there's just this magic about the city where a night just falls together and then you end up somewhere else, and you end up somewhere else, then you end up somewhere else. It doesn't seem like it happens that much anywhere else.
You see, it's doable. It's doable. We gotta have ADUs, for example. You allow it statewide, everywhere. I mean, sometimes the states have to do it. Like in Oregon, Portland did not approve it, some cities, so the state of Oregon said, okay, everybody, not in the rural areas, any community of more than 20,000 people have to be allowed as a right to have ADUs. ADUs could be amazing. Also allow people to subdivide their homes. There's many people that now are empty nesters. They want to age in place. According to ARP, 91% of the Americans want to age in place. But they have a house that is too big and too expensive. Let them, as of right, split it into 2 to 4 units. It's going to be amazing for everybody. It's a win-win-win. The owner is going to have a new income renting the 3 units this year and next, forever. Who's going to do those divisions? Small and medium-sized contractors that are going to be doing thousands of units. And who's going to benefit the most? The renters that are going to have units everywhere, everywhere. Most of those houses used to have kids, so we have the schools, and we have the water, and we have the sewage. So ADUs and renovation should be critical. Also, in the smaller areas, let's have, as of right, 6 floors. This is all I'm asking for. We could provide housing for everybody in the existing footprint. Just by doing this, bringing back the main street. I mean, the main streets are the heart and soul of our community. But if we only have 2 floors, one for retail and one to live, they're going to go broke. We need to put 4 or 5 floors on top of it. And in the larger arterials, okay, allow 12 floors as of right. But that's only on the larger ones. And then we can do most of them in wood also. In the shopping center, not as of right, but let's master plan the shopping centers. I mean, we need to solve the housing crisis. But also, we are doing the homes for the next 200 years. So we got to create a really nice one. I mean, we're a city of neighborhoods. Now everybody talks about the walkable city, the 20-minute city in Portland, the 15-minute city in Paris. I mean, I love the 3-minute city. That's in Europe. They're doing a lot of things. Through internet, people connect to socialize, to play cards, to dance, to go to places. But I love the most is the 1-minute cities. That's in Sweden, you know, the country of Lego. The city, the cities were the beautiful street furniture, like 60 pieces. So you meet with your neighbors and you decide what do you want in front of your house. Do you want bike racks, or you want trees, or you want plants, or you want barbecue, or you want seats, or chairs, or garbage, whatever you want. And why are they doing this? For public health. Because they want people to be outside. They want people to socialize. They want to increase by 400% the time that people spend outdoors. So 7, we got to be close to nature. We got to have nature everywhere, at home, on the sidewalks, on the streets. I mean, the trees, look at this. Trees do lower the temperature. But probably we need more trees. And now we have technology to evaluate and do the inventory of trees. I mean, parks and sidewalks are part of the same family. We look at both need trees. You know, see the benefits to clean the air, to absorb water, I mean, for so many things. We gotta have great parks, and great parks are great if they're great for people. If people come, they stay, they come back. It's not if they win awards. I mean, parks are for people. Should we have small or large parks? I mean, we gotta have both. Even smaller than small. We gotta have tiny urban forests. Look at this tiny urban forest, the amazing impact that it's having. Well, this one is next door in Massachusetts. This one, it's in Cambridge. But it also builds community, children and community doing this. It's incredible. Look at this one in Chile. They designed it, they built it, and now look at those temperatures. The difference between surface and the air and on the small forest is really amazing. But of course, we also need small neighborhood parks. We meet our neighbors. We develop a sense of solidarity, a sense of belonging. So we need the tiny, the small, the medium, the large, because each one satisfies very different needs. So we do need, actually what we really need is a citywide park system with active, with passive, with contemplative parks for people of all ages and all abilities. And we need not only infrastructure, we need programs. It's not only the hardware, but we need the software. Sometimes I go to cities and say, you got movie nights, we don't have budget. Do you have working groups? We don't have budget. You need to have the budget. The uses are probably even more important than the infrastructure. So we gotta be able, how are we gonna do the yoga and the knitting and the walking so that people are active? Keep in mind, inequality is felt mostly during the leisure time. So everybody should have a park within walking distance. So if you don't have a park, think about what's public, the street, the park, the schools, the libraries. Have a street, make it a play street. Also the schools. This is a message for Rhode Island. This is really smart growth. The schools should be more than schools. The schools should be the heart of the neighborhood. I mean, there's such a huge fight between the boards of education and the cities. Each one calls the other one, oh, they're selfish, narrow-minded. Both are selfish and narrow-minded. They should get together and find a solution, including the state. I mean, like Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. Sustainability is using all the existing infrastructure in multiple ways. The schools should be the neighborhood community centers. Imagine tomorrow, every neighborhood in Rhode Island has a school. Every neighborhood in Rhode Island could have its own community center. Look at these playgrounds in New York being turned into this. New York has done more than 300 of this into this. Look, allotment gardens, trees, green areas. Look at this school. Where would you like your child to go? To have a parking lot for teachers or to have a playground for everybody? I mean, the schools is where we should have cooking lessons and farmers markets and flower markets. I mean, in Paris, people say, oh, Paris was built like that. No, in the last 2.5 years, Paris went healthy. The street schools right in front of the schools, they have turned 350 schools. They thought it was going to be only 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. No, 80% became permanent. They do the drawing. 80%. They have done over 350 schools in the last 2.5 years. Same thing they're doing in other places. This is London, England. And again, everything around the schools. This is the mayor of London who says the children are not being physically active, so he created the London Mile, the Daily Mile. So they had a recess for 15 minutes. They expanded 10 minutes. And every school in London, at that time, they go out and kids run around for a mile. That's the Daily Mile. That could be done also anywhere in Rhode Island. Why not? Imagine the schools for this. To dance with strangers. In the schools as community centers in every neighborhood, the schools should be the heart of, and the last message is that we gotta change, clearly. I mean, we need to change. I know that change is hard, that's why we don't change. Because change, mostly the opposing people show up, so we do need to show up. And doing more of the same is easier. But no, we cannot do more of the same, we gotta be the change. I mean, change, we need to know is not unanimous. But the public good must prevail over the particular interest, because the cost of doing nothing is not nothing. I mean, all of you, smart growth Rhode Island, you have an amazing opportunity, but also responsibility, because you are doing the city for the next 200 years. Focus on people. Focus on the benefits. It's not about bike lanes or parks or community centers. It's about culture and education and happiness and whatever your community cares about, because all of this helps all of that. Everything that I have said is doable. We need to manage the cities radically different. Remember that there is nothing at this time, for whatever reason it happened to us, is the most important decision of our time is how the cities are built. No one said it was going to be easy, but there's not going to be a Martian coming down to say, oh, I will make cities in Rhode Island equitable, sustainable, playful. These things are not technical issues. This is not a financial issue. I said it's a policy with a big P. We need to have an agreement on the what. We need to have an agreement on the urgency. Maybe in the how there might be differences, but we need to have an agreement. When I say P, it's with policy, a big policy. Everybody needs to participate. Everybody needs to be bold. Let's do alliances. This has nothing to do with left or right or politics or Republican or Democrat. And we need to develop that shared vision, and we need to act. We need to act. We need to move from talking to doing, and then we're going to create equitable and sustainable cities in Rhode Island where everyone is going to be able to live healthier and happier. So let's do it. But now, thank you very much. Thank you.
My reaction is, wow.